Hello once again, it's your boy That's No Moon. Something a little bit different tonight. Now, I've been playing this game for over 5 years, and I'm not quite sure why. What keeps me bringing me back to this game? Now, I know CG and No Angels, and there's certainly things that could be done a whole lot better. And I know that the community can be pretty vocal about these things at times, and this isn't what I'm going to cover tonight. Because over that last 5 years that we've been engaged with this game, there have been certain moments of magic, and there are certain things that they have done quite well. So that's what I'm going to go through tonight. This list is going to be completely subjective. I would love your honest feedback on what your number one would be, or your top three. And please feel free to comment down below. If you disagree, let me know why as well, because I'm all up for a healthy debate on this channel as well. So without further ado, let's get into number 10. Okay, so number 10 is the Thrawn event. Now, you may have forgot this, but back in the day, or if you were a newer player, then you could try these sort of legendary events with Gear 8 characters, and you would strip all of your best mods off your best characters. You would put them on for a day or two to try and get this event done, and it was doable, even with Gear 7 or Gear 8. Now, the music in that scene alone was absolutely incredible. I remember the first time I heard it, I had chills and goosebumps on my arms. I thought it was done incredibly. It is incredibly hard event when it first came out, and it did take a lot of doing. And, I mean, it was the norm to do these events for a few hours, certainly before you had this character unlocked. But this was the big change in the game, is Jedi Knight Revan and Darth Revan. Now, love them or hate the Old Republic, the event was actually quite good. And in terms of moments why we played, now, I completely forgot about that you had to take a Rancor down. I played this recently in the Journey Guide, and it was actually pretty good. It was an enjoyable event, and there was obviously some work that went into it. Well, I say that, but when you see this animation, you'll realise that it's from somewhere else. Yeah, that's right, the pit raid. But there was a pretty good story to this event, much more so than the events that come out recently. I completely forgot about this guy that we had to. I remember the feeling that I had when I first saw this guy, and I didn't look at any YouTube guides. I wanted to go in with it on my own, and I remember that this guy was incredibly tough at the time, a little bit easier now, obviously, with the introduction of relics and everything. But I really enjoyed this event, this Jedi Knight Revan event. In terms of its difficulty, I think it was perfect. I know it was the really kind of a very forced farm for a faction that didn't feel that great at the time, but the end result was incredibly good, and it changed the landscape of the game, whether you like it or not, and whether you sort of followed those metas of the Old Republic. The other side of the coin was the Darth Revan event. So obviously we had Jedi Knight Revan, and mirror matches were a nightmare in Arena. So this kind of broke the stalemate, certainly one way or another. But again, this event was very, very good. I thoroughly enjoyed this event. I remember that feeling when the first time I played this stage here, I think it was like stage 5, trying to work out, going on YouTube, finding the guides, and this was when the community was alive, when we were all working together to try and beat this event and come up with guides for it. Obviously, when you get through the side tanks, it's now a sort of 6 versus 1 against this guy. I remember how scared I was when I first saw that fear mechanic, not the fear mechanic, the death mark. And I was thinking, oh my God, that hit so hard. And just having this guy wipe your party, obviously it's a little bit easier now doing it in the Journey Guide, but at the time, this was an incredible moment in the game. Unlocking Darth Revan changed the landscape of the game. It completely blew away any other squad that was currently meta, and completely changed. As I said, the artwork on this event was pretty good. Enjoyed the work that they'd put into it. I know every player is only going to see this once, so there isn't a huge amount of use out of it. But I mean, look at the detail there. That looks nice. They put some effort into it, whereas again, at the moment, it doesn't really feel like there's a huge amount of effort going on with the game. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this event. And obviously after you get through these guys, we obviously have Malik awaits. And more so, I remember this moment very clearly in my mind. I didn't know a huge amount about the Old Republic, but I knew the main characters, I knew a little bit of the story from playing the game many years ago, but this got me back into the Old Republic. Didn't like it when it first came out, but got back into it hugely when it did. Number 8 on the list, Dark Side GOTBs. Now, in terms of a moment why we play, there's a certain satisfaction in PvE. Now, PvE is designed to... The problem is it doesn't scale, and it will always start off too hard, and then it will become too easy, and we've seen this with the heroic pit raid, we've seen it with the tank raid, we've seen it with the Sith raid as well. This, I feel, at the moment is just right. Light side territory battles, I'm not going to go too much into that at the moment, but the feeling that you get when you clear all 4 waves in all territories is great feeling. It feels like progress. It feels like you've worked up your squad, and also using squads like Bounty Hunters and Night Sisters, and it gives you an excuse to, and First Order, it gives you an excuse to gear up these characters and have a lot of fun with them, because they will have uses in here as well. Again, some people will prefer territory battles, some people will prefer PvP, but for me, this rates pretty highly in terms of satisfaction. And this, when this first came out, I felt a new desire to start working on these teams again, on Bounty Hunters, on getting Django up so he hits like a truck, and getting Bosk up so he can tank through 4 waves of it. I really enjoyed Darkside Geo territory battles, and we've got one going on at the moment, and I sort of can't wait to go in for the next stage. I think it is much more enjoyable than any other content that they've or any other PvE content that they've really brought us in terms of territory battles. Hoth is obviously now way too outdated and way too easy for most guilds and most players. But as I said, this probably again, I guess, as I said at the start, this list is subjective, but for me, this is again a very, very satisfactory moment where, you know, you've put in a whole lot of work to these factions and in good faith, and they end up performing well. So yeah, number 8 on my list is Darkside GOTBs. As I said, a lot of satisfaction that comes from this PvE. Number 7 on this list, unlocking Commander Luke Skywalker. This felt like a huge shift in the game. Commander Luke Skywalker, there was a huge buzz about this character back in the game. And again, it wasn't... you needed 7-star characters, but that was about it. Now, a magical moment for me, I will remember this as long as I play this game, was this duel here. When we first went in, when we first tried to work out what the hell it was that we needed to do. And again, we all know where it was going. But yeah, this was a real magical moment in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes for me. This duel here just brought back a huge amount of nostalgia from the films. And again, this was sort of before you could ×4 it as well. Yeah, that was actually a thing where there wasn't a ×4. That was a quality of life update, and everything had to be ×1. But yeah, this was incredibly well done. I really, really enjoyed this scene. Brought back a lot of good memories watching this once again in the journey guide. So yeah, number 7 for me, unlocking Commander Luke Skywalker. Number 6, a close fought territory war. Now, love it or hate territory wars, there is nothing quite like a close territory wars, and I don't know whether this is the competitive spirit in me that brings it out, but you find that people are just glued to this. And on a tight one, I mean, the rewards are pretty good, but there's not a huge amount of difference between first and second place. So it doesn't make a huge amount of sense that, again, I try and logically tell myself, well, there's not a huge amount of difference between a first and a second, but there's something inside me that is that pride is brought out for the guild. It brings everyone closer together, and it brings that whole guild a better synergy on a close fought territory war. Now, in this last one, we actually drew, and unfortunately, both guilds get second place. But I was absolutely glued to this, and I know a few other members of the guild were as well. And so this is a huge moment why I continue to play, is not more so the competitiveness of Territory Wars, but there's sometimes a magical little spark where someone who doesn't even talk on Discord comes out and gets that final win. Number 5 is Relics. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of Relics when they first came out. I think it was so soon after Gear 13, and it felt like an instant cash grab. But the more and more that I think about Relics, the more and more that I actually enjoy putting Relics on characters, making decent characters amazing. And every character really does come alive. Or, sorry, I'll say the majority of characters come alive when they've got Relics on them. They make average characters good, and they make great characters amazing. Again, for example, Geo Spy can just absolutely tear the damage, tear a team apart one by one. I really like where we want to go with this in terms of the flexibility of people like Mission and people like I can't think of another example, but there's so many Sith Marauder as well, Sith Trooper. There's all these characters that I really want to go and find out, well, what happens? How far can I push these with Relics? Number 4 is Grand Arena. Now, this is probably the most important part of the game for a lot of people. I think it more comes down to bragging rights, because the rewards are okay, but they're for the amount that we do to get to Kyberly, they could be better, let's put it in all honesty. But I believe whatever division you're in, it's scaled okay. It is probably a competitive nature in people that brings it out, but nothing quite beats a close Grand Arena, in my opinion. It's like a game of chess, but with Star Wars characters. In all honesty, whether it's timing, whether it's a team that holds that you've been working on, or whether it's a left field team that just holds for, like, for example, 12 battles that you didn't expect to hold. There is a certain bit of magic in Grand Arena and certain moments that is why we play. Number 3, this will be controversial, the Darth Malik event. Now, again, the Old Republic was the first one that really forced us to get characters to a certain GP level, and I don't mind that. And it was also the first, would you call it legendary, that unlocked at 5-star. And again, Malik was okay because he was still fairly usable at 5 or 6-star due to the Zetas. Again, he performs a lot better at 7-star and at Relics. But I remember when I first saw this event, I thought that it did bring a lot of memories back from the playing the Old Republic games. And yeah, and I remember as well, this event was it was very daunting, I'm not going to lie. It was incredibly daunting when, without a guide, getting enough shreds of armor shreds on, enough stacks of armor shred on there as well. This was an incredibly well done event, in my opinion. It was tough, but it was doable, and there was strategy to it as well. And in terms of that, the reward was great, because you got your Malik and then you could start gearing him up as well. After weeks and weeks of farming, if not months, you now had this incredibly hard event that you had to work out, which was, there wasn't a huge amount of RNG. There was certain ways to play it, but it took a while to work out, and people were sort of beavering away on the first few days trying to get it. And it was great to watch. Didn't get it first time myself, but again, I was thoroughly involved in this event and watching people try to unlock it with the strategy. I really enjoyed this event. So this was a little bit of a moment of magic, and a moment why I play is an event like this. It felt like it was just tough enough, but it certainly gave you a taste of what was to come with Darth Malik. So yeah, this was number 3 for me, quite high up on the list. So yeah, I did enjoy that event, but I would like to hear your feedback on that one. I know a lot of people didn't like it and didn't like being forced to get characters to a certain GP level, but that's just the way the game is now. And number 2 is going to be, drum roll, here it comes. Number 2 is going to be the Heroic Sith Raid. Now, the reason I say this was a little bit of moment of magic when, okay, for months you start at tier 5, then you go up to tier 6, then you try a tier 7, a heroic, you fail miserably, you're back to tier 6. But then after 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, or maybe even a year, when your guild first complete that by themselves, and I'm not on about having mercs over, when your guild first complete this, I remember, this is a very subjective experience, but I remember such a feeling of elation when we'd first completed this raid. There was a real camaraderie in the guild. We'd all, again, farmed teams, very specific teams for it. This was the first raid that was that tough. And it has also lasted the test of time in terms of its rewards. You still see people fighting it out for the top 10 these days, or the top 3. But when you think about it, that you can have full gear pieces drop, which can cost 6,000 crystals plus, again, it's a little moment of magic. But I remember that the first time that we completed this was absolutely fantastic. So as I said, I think they did a really good job with this Heroic Sith Raid. Having 4 different phases. Again, I know we'd had it with the Heroic Pit and we'd had it with the HAT, but this just felt so different, and this just felt like an absolute mountain to climb. But it was good. It was healthy, and it brought guilds closer together. It also broke quite a few guilds as well. I will note that a lot of people would have left perfectly good guilds because they weren't able to complete the Heroic Sith Raid. I think that's just the natural ebb and flow of a game, because people will always chase better rewards, and when you have 50 people together, you're not going to be able to please everyone. So I think that's just a byproduct of any new content, as opposed to that raid itself. Now, number 1 for me, and again, this is subjective, I don't have a Galactic Legend, so I can't really give you an insight, and that I can't really put that as a moment of why I play in this list. The general Anakin Skywalker event. Now, in terms of moments that define why I play, so this was months of preparation, and this event is coming around again in a few days. So it kind of inspired me to do this again. Now, the reason that I really like this event, it is incredibly tough. It will take you quite a few hours without strategy, and if you try and do it all yourself, there is a lot of RNG in phase 4. But the reason I like this is there is not a bad bit of bloat. All of these characters here are useful in some respect. Galactic Republic and Separatist droids are all incredible factions to go and farm, and they will also in turn help you with the dark side GOTB, earning you more stars and getting you better rewards as well. So there was no bad byproduct of this event at all. When this first came out, obviously people were scrambling, and there is a controversy here in terms of, okay, this with Malik it was different. When he was at 5-star or 6-star, he was usable. He was hard to get through. General Anakin Skywalker, anything less than... Pardon the interruption there, my daughter just woke up. And yeah, anything less than a 7-star General Anakin Skywalker, and with relics on him, he's not performing like he should. So again, I get why there was a sour taste in people's mouths, let's say, when this first came round. On reflection, from the moment that I unlocked General Anakin Skywalker to the moment that I reliced him, it was about, I can't remember exactly, but it was about 180 days. So it was a big old investment, but I do not regret it in the slightest. I remember phase 2 being incredibly hard, and it took me a long time to work out the strategy, and with a little bit of luck as well, you can kind of brute force your way through. But I think this this event makes you learn very quickly, because there are a few... Phase 2 is not as bad as phase 4, and phase 2, they take certain turn orders and they do the same sort of thing over and over, so you can kind of work it out. Phase 4 is a different beast, and phase 4, unfortunately, even if you play it perfectly, you will fail a lot of the time. You will have to restart over and over and over. There is a legit strategy with this, and again, this is up to you to find out. This video isn't about a strategy video for it, but I think in finding that strategy, there is a certain beauty in it. It was hard, it wasn't obvious, and you had to put a lot of work in, remod those characters that you're using, understand the mechanics, and then try and find a loophole for it. And again, I think this event is now even harder, because General Anakin Skywalker now counterattacks when he takes a knee. So, but for me, I completed it the second time round, so I didn't have that, but this is footage. I actually went back, completed it the third time round again to get footage for a guide. So, and as I learned on the third time, there is no short... Any guide that says 100% accuracy on this is telling you a whole load of porkies. It isn't like that. It is a hard event, just because of the random nature of it. But for me, getting this event and getting General Anakin Skywalker, it wasn't so much that that I got the character to a usable ability. It was just that I completed the event. And this moment of magic for me was my top moment, what's kept me playing. This was a brilliant moment when I did unlock General Anakin Skywalker. So yeah, I would love to hear your feedback. What's your sort of top 1 or 3 moments why you play? What has been that little magic moment that you've forgot about, that you fell in love with the game originally with? And that would be generally interesting to hear your thoughts on this list as well. Do you think anything should be higher, anything should be lower? And of course, if you have enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like, and if you're new here, a subscribe as well. It really does help out the video and the channel as well. Again, there's a Discord if you do want to hop in and chat more about that, Grand Arenas, whatever it is, then I'll put that in the description as well. I've been That Snow Moon. Great to have you here. Hopefully you've enjoyed this little video today. I've taken it all in one take, haven't wrote any notes. I've just kind of freeballed it, and I had a rough idea on what I wanted to say, so apologies. Again, there could have been a little bit more work getting it done, but with the General Anakin Skywalker event coming back, again, it brings back such fond memories, but also it was incredibly tough, and I think there is a certain beauty in the struggle as well, that you know something is doable and you're just so close to it, and when everything lines up perfectly, you're able to get it. And I remember like just yelling out in joy when I first did this event. And as I said, not because I've got a usable character, I've just completed it. So again, that sort of tells me something, that PvE content and PvE events are still very relevant in the game today. And unfortunately, until we hear from the road ahead, we won't quite know what's coming. So fingers crossed we are going to have something good there. As I said, hopefully you've enjoyed the little video here today, and I will see you on the other side. Cheers, guys.